Be still for a moment, my child, and set down whatever has been occupying your hands. I want you to hear what I am saying without rushing past it, because it will change how you understand some of the things you have already lived through. As I look closely at your life, I saw something in you that caused heaven itself to become still. It was never something you arranged for others to notice, or something you performed to earn admiration. It came from you so naturally that you never understood how much it mattered in the unseen. So hear me with a quiet heart, because some words can only reach you when you stop hurrying inside. I am speaking to you personally, to the one who feels something stirring even before the mind has decided what to make of these words. Your spirit already recognizes what your thoughts are still weighing, and that movement within you is not something being planted there for the first time. My spirit is touching something you have already been sensing quietly for days. There is something I saw recently that I want you to understand. You came through one of the most painful stretches of your journey, and what met you there seemed almost shaped to wear you down until something inside you finally broke. What happened to you was real, and the wound was deeper than other people may ever fully understand. You were given every human reason to return the hurt you had received. If others had known every detail, many of them would have understood if you had hardened your heart, answered with cruelty, or simply turned away. In that moment, everything wounded within you wanted to defend itself. You wanted to answer, expose what had been done, and finally release the anger burning in your chest. There were arguments inside you that made anger seem completely reasonable, and you could have explained that anger to almost anyone. Yet somewhere beneath all that pain, you chose a different response. You stopped words that could have cut deeply, even though saying them would have taken only a moment. You protected what you could have exposed, and you refused to place another person's failure before everyone who might have judged them for it. You remained willing to try once more when walking away would have been understandable to anyone watching. A genuine wound met genuine mercy in you, and heaven does not overlook such a moment. Listen closely now, because I want you to understand why that choice carried so much weight. Human hearts easily settle into familiar patterns. Hurt can harden them. Betrayal can awaken the desire to strike back, and injustice can make bitterness feel like a permanent companion. I have watched that pattern repeat itself through generation after generation, and I know how naturally wounded flesh reaches for wounded responses. Yet there are moments when a heart refuses to continue what pain tried to begin. Sometimes darkness is met with light, not because anyone is watching, praising, or keeping record, but because something deeper within the person chooses mercy. When that happens, I do not regard it as insignificant. I see what it costs, and it moves me. My child, you gave me one of those moments. What happened in you was more than simply enduring something difficult. Many endure because determination carries them through, while others endure because no other path seems available. And I look upon them with tenderness as well, but your response carried something different. When you were struck, blessings still came from you, and when you were treated wrongly, you would not let that wrong remake your own heart. What happened around you did not become the authority over what came from within you. Under pressure, your character remained rooted somewhere deeper than your circumstances. Many hearts change with the atmosphere around them, warming beneath kindness and growing cold beneath cruelty. Their inner world rises and falls with whatever the day places before them. Yet you showed that another person's actions did not have to shape you into someone you were never meant to become. In darkness, under pressure, and without any visible reward waiting for you, something steady remained inside you. And there was something about that moment you could never have seen for yourself. Nobody was standing beside you applauding the decision, and you were not trying to impress anyone on earth or in heaven. You were simply revealing who you were when you believed no one was watching, and that is precisely what gave the moment its depth. Kindness displayed for an audience can remain near the surface, but mercy that still flows when the heart feels unseen comes from somewhere much deeper. Those hidden places are the places I notice first. I look through your recent days with the care of a father lingering over a letter from a child he dearly loves, slowly and without passing over a single line. I saw battles inside you that you never explained to another person, the sentences you almost released and then swallowed, and the nights when you had to talk your own heart away from bitterness yet again. I saw you wake the next morning and choose gentleness another time, even when you had no evidence that gentleness was changing anything. Every one of those quiet decisions was seen, and none of them disappeared unnoticed. There is something I spoke over you in that hour, and I want you to carry its meaning with you. This heart reminds me why I formed the human heart. Sit with that slowly. The one who called light into existence, placed the stars along their paths, and holds the waters within his measure, looked upon decisions you made in secret and was moved by what he saw. Even the mighty messengers who remain before me and carry out what I command cannot experience obedience in quite the way you did. They serve while standing in the brightness of my glory and seeing clearly what you are still asked to trust. You walk with me while much remains behind a veil, and my face is still beyond your sight. You chose mercy without being shown beforehand that mercy would prevail, and you continued trusting in darkness, where trust carries a real cost. Even the angels had reason to become still before that kind of faithfulness. Stay with this for a moment, because you have spent so much time wondering what I was doing that you may never have considered what I was seeing in you. Before I tell you anything further, receive this truth and allow it to remain where it lands. You did not arrive at these words by accident. I prepared this hour and kept this space for you because what remains carries both a promise and something difficult you must hear. Those two things belong together, and you will need to receive them together rather than choosing only the easier one. If beneath all your questions you recognize that these words have reached the heart they were meant to reach, softly give me your amen now, the way a child answers a father in the darkness. Now let me show you what you could never see, the part of your story unfolding beyond your sight. When you chose kindness instead of justified anger, you were doing more than something good. You were taking a stand in a battle you did not even know was happening. There is a reason darkness is pressed so fiercely against a soul like yours. Its purpose was never only to wound you. It wanted the wound to change you. Every attack carried the same hidden intention, to pull you toward bitterness, teach your heart to hate, and make you return poison for poison. When a soul answers evil with evil, it moves from beneath my covering and begins operating through the same power seeking its destruction. That has been the strategy against you from the beginning. But when you answered hostility with blessing, you disrupted the entire plan. Malice reached you and found nothing inside you to hold on to, because where love remains standing, hatred finds nowhere to take root. What was meant to injure you returned toward its source while your hands remained still. You disarmed your enemies with the one response they did not know how to defeat, and this moved me even more. Mercy was not a technique you practiced or a response you carefully rehearsed. It came naturally from somewhere deep within you, under pressure that would have made many hearts bitter, and while almost no one stood beside you. When you were crushed, venom was not what poured out. That showed me what had been quietly growing within you through all these hidden years. Then I looked farther back along your journey, and found something that pleased me even more than one act of pattern. Your kindness in that painful moment was not standing alone. Through seasons nobody celebrated, you repeatedly chose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. You told the truth when a lie could have protected you, kept your word when keeping it cost you, and gave patience to people who may never understand what it required. Again and again you chose integrity without knowing whether anyone would ever notice. You have been living like one of my chosen ones without realizing it. There was no applause, no certainty that your choices mattered, and no sign appearing in the sky telling you to continue. You did what was right simply because it was right, in small matters and costly ones, even when others would have excused you for doing less. Faithfulness like that, carried quietly across years, reveals something deeper than a single moment ever could. That hidden steadiness is what I search the earth to find. It is the difference between a soul I can bless and one I can trust. Now I want you to recognize what has already begun changing around you, because heaven's attention never remains idle. My favor moves. It leaves evidence, and when you recognize that evidence, you will stop calling it coincidence. Look first at what has happened to the plans formed against you. Think about these recent weeks. The people who spoke against you quietly wanted to see you fall, or sent hostility toward your life like arrows released in darkness. Plans that seemed certain to succeed somehow came apart. Things they thought securely held slipped from their hands, and doors they intended to close against you refused to remain closed. That is not luck, and it is not chance. When I am moved by a soul, my protection around that life becomes like a wall. Arrows aimed toward it do not simply miss. They turn, and trouble intended for you begins arriving at the gates of those who prepared it. They cannot understand why what they planned has failed to reach you. Perhaps you have already noticed this quietly and wondered what you were seeing. Now you understand. Notice also the peace that keeps finding you in the middle of the storm. By every reasonable measure, the weight you have carried lately should have overwhelmed you, especially on days when everything beneath you seemed to shake. Yet right in the center of it, an unexpected calm kept returning. Your problems remained, but somehow the peace remained too. You know that peace does not match your circumstances, and you have wondered where it comes from. It comes from me, the quiet that settles over a life when heaven draws near. I placed it upon you like a steady hand on a soldier's shoulder. Before any other proof arrived, I wanted you to know that you are not walking through this season alone. There is more evidence already present in your days, signs you have seen without understanding what they meant. Your eyes are beginning to open to them even now. But before I continue, I want one thing settled between us clearly and without hurry. Everything I am telling you asks for one response, not excitement or curiosity, but trust. I mean trust that keeps listening when my words become difficult, and remains steady when a promise seems slow. I am not asking you to manufacture a feeling, because feelings rise and fall like tides. I am asking you to set your heart firmly, like a builder setting a stone in its place. I have come for more than simply comforting you. Comfort alone would leave you standing exactly where you are, and I love you too deeply for that. I have come to lift you, correct you, prepare you, and place something into your hands that you had stopped expecting. All of this is real, and it is nearer than you think. If your heart is open to every word I have for you, the gentle and the firm answer me now and say, I am listening, Father. Now listen to the rest of the evidence, because your life is already speaking, and I want you to understand its language. Notice how your vision has sharpened. Decisions that once left you confused for days are becoming clearer much faster. Questions that remained buried in fog are beginning to stand in morning light. Sometimes you simply know what direction is right before you can fully explain why. It has not come through a voice from the clouds, but through quiet impressions, sudden understanding, and an assurance within you that keeps proving true. This is not merely your imagination becoming stronger. It is my counsel reaching you through a path that has been cleared. I am guiding you more closely than before, and this is only the beginning. Notice also who has been leaving your life. Certain people have quietly drifted away, and some doors have closed with a finality that surprised you. Companions who drained you are gone, while arrangements that silently held you back have dissolved. At first, some of those departures felt like loss, but look again through the understanding I am giving you. I have been clearing the ground. Some things had to move because they could no longer remain where you are going. What felt like loss was part of that clearing, even when it hurt to watch it leave. A new season requires a cleared field. I have been removing, one by one, what cannot continue with you where you are going. Do not run after what my hand is carrying out of your life, because I am present in what leaves just as surely as I will be present in what arrives. Pay attention to that quiet sense growing inside you that something is drawing near. You have felt it even when you could not explain it. There is an expectancy within you, a subtle leaning forward, like the change in the air before rain. You have tried to call it wishful thinking, yet it keeps returning in quiet moments. Trust what you are sensing, because your spirit is becoming aware of something your mind has not yet been shown. Something is approaching your life, connected to what I have been telling you in this hour. But before I take you further, I need to speak about trust, because trust will become the hinge upon which what lies ahead turns. Trust, my child, is revealed by more than emotion. It is revealed through an open hand. Long ago, I watched people bring offerings to the treasury of my house, many giving from what they could easily spare. Then a widow came with only 2 small coins, placed them down quietly, and walked away without drawing attention to herself. What moved me was never the amount, but the openness of the heart behind it. An open hand reveals a heart willing to trust its Father rather than live guarded by fear. If this work has genuinely helped you, and you freely feel led to support it, you can do so through the QR code or the support link in the description. Let that support come freely from your heart, never from fear or pressure. The clenched hand says, my safety depends on what I can keep, while the open hand says, my safety rests in the one who holds me. Between those 2 postures lies the difference between living under fear and living from trust. I am teaching you this openness not only in provision, but throughout your life. A hand that has learned to release is also a hand able to receive. Abraham stood on the mountain with what he loved laid before me, and he chose not to withhold it. When I saw that his heart held nothing back, I spoke a blessing whose story continues through the earth. His trust became inseparable from the inheritance before him. This has always carried meaning in my kingdom, not because I need what you possess, but because release creates room within the heart. What you clutch remains confined within your grip, while what you entrust to me is no longer ruled by that grip. Think of seed becoming harvest, and 2 small coins carrying more weight than an overflowing treasury. I am not asking you to prove your love, because your love is already known. I am calling you toward the freedom of a heart that no longer bargains with fear. Fear whispers that there may not be enough, that tomorrow requires you to hold tighter, and that security can be stored away. You have already seen what fear produces. It makes the soul smaller, and you were not made to shrink. Now I need to take you deeper, because this hour carries more than affirmation. There is also something firm you need to hear. You have already received the first word. Heaven has been moved by what it has seen in you. Favor is gathering around your life, and its evidence has begun appearing. Nothing I say next removes any part of that. But the second word is firmer, and I will give it without weakening it. Something in your life has moved out of place. A father who watches his child move toward a cliff and chooses only pleasant words withholds the love that child needs. My firmness is still. My love doing the work of protection. Something must be made right before the blessing I have spoken about comes fully into view. Do not fear this correction, because my correction comes to rescue rather than destroy. Stay close and keep listening. I need to speak something difficult and something beautiful together, because both belong in this moment. So hear the difficult word without turning away. Not long ago you made a choice, even though something within you had already warned you against it. You recognized the boundary and felt that quiet resistance pressing against your will, yet you continued forward. I was present, and I had not left you without warning. Heaven saw what happened, and heaven does not need to pretend otherwise. Before you reach for the explanations you have repeated to yourself, become still. I already know those explanations, and I know what lies beneath them. This is not an hour for defending what happened. It is an hour for honesty, and to become honest about it, you need to understand where the choice truly began. It began before your hands ever acted. A thought came to the doorway of your mind without carrying my peace, and somewhere inside you recognized that absence. Instead of sending it away, you allowed it to remain and gave it more room than you knew it should have. You returned to it until the thought became an inclination. The inclination became a decision, and the decision became an action. This is how drifting happens, through one quiet warning after another. Once it was done, you felt the difference. You told no one, but the peace within you became unsettled. Your prayers felt heavier, and restlessness followed you through the day. You called it stress and weariness, but somewhere deeper, your spirit knew what it was. Your heart was telling the truth while your lips remained silent. Now understand where my firmness is directed. It is not directed against you. It is directed against the road you stepped onto, and what I could already see farther ahead. A shepherd who sees a wolf approaching does not whisper. He raises his voice. The sharpness you hear from me today is that shepherd's cry, and it is meant to protect you. Remember this as well. I do not correct what has no value to me. A farmer leaves an abandoned field untouched, but he tends and prunes the field from which he expects a harvest. You are receiving correction because you matter to me. This firm word is evidence that I have never released you. Your stumble did not erase your calling, diminish your worth, lessen my love, or cause me to turn away. What changed was your direction, and your direction is what I have come to correct. A traveler on the wrong road has not lost his value. He is simply moving somewhere he should not go. I love you too much to quietly watch you continue there. The greater danger now is pride. Pride will whisper that these words belong to someone else, that what happened was small, or that you can manage it privately without facing it. Pride has carried stronger souls farther than they intended to go. Do not allow it to answer for you today. You feel a weight as you hear this, and I know you recognize it. That weight is not condemnation. What you are feeling is conviction, and conviction is mercy. Condemnation pushes a soul down and leaves it there, while conviction points to one thing and says, "Here, this must be faced." I have made it clear because I do not want you to miss what needs your attention. Remember the Shepherd King who fell much farther than you have. He took what was not his, hid what he had done, and tried for a time to live beneath that covering as though it were peace. But when my word brought him face to face with the truth, he stopped arguing and confessed, "I have sinned against you." That honesty opened him to a mercy his crown could never have bought. That same honesty is what I am listening for from you. I am not asking for a performance of grief or endless self-punishment. I am asking for truth from a heart that has stopped hiding. There is a road home from this, and it is shorter than you fear. But honesty cannot be skipped. First, become completely honest about what happened. Name it without attaching an excuse, making it prettier or making it smaller. What comes into the light loses its hiding place, while what remains concealed continues holding on to you. Bring the whole thing before me, and its grip will begin loosening when you stop defending it. You do not need to win a case before me. You only need to tell me the truth, then deliberately turn back toward me instead of allowing your return to remain casual. Come intentionally and speak plainly, the way a child speaks to a father they trust. Then become still and allow that quiet to do its work within you. Something begins to change there. The coldness coming through that open door starts to disappear, and the unrest within you begins settling. It is like hearing a door finally close with my hand upon the latch and your heart agreeing with mine. What opened through one careless moment can be closed through one deliberate return. Then comes the third step. Forgive yourself without excusing yourself. Guilt that remains after genuine repentance is not devotion. It becomes a burden I never gave you to carry. It keeps you chained to a moment I have already dealt with. If I have released you, do not keep yourself imprisoned there. Lift your head, because the account is settled through my mercy, not through your suffering. Your sorrow had its moment to tell the truth and do its necessary work, but it does not need to become your permanent home. Carrying that failure behind you from this day forward would no longer be humility. It would be unbelief. I am asking you to put it down. You also need to understand the difference between a mistake and a pattern. A mistake is a stumble along the road, while a pattern slowly becomes a road of its own, traveled so often that your feet stop questioning where they are going. What happened was a stumble, but beneath it I could see the beginning of a pattern. That deeper pattern is what I am healing today. This was not the first time you felt that inward hesitation and moved beyond it anyway. Other moments seem small, yet small compromises are seeds, and they grow quietly in darkness. I am removing this one while its roots are still shallow. That is not harshness. It is the care of a gardener who knows what the mature plant would become. Now the correction has accomplished what it needed to accomplish, and my voice begins different work. I am turning toward rebuilding, and I will begin with the one thing that could have guarded you from all of this. You need to know my voice among every other voice. That is where I begin. Listen closely, because what I am teaching you now can guard you for the rest of your life. My voice is not difficult to recognize, but it can be drowned beneath everything competing for your attention. I speak through the quiet hesitation before a choice, the caution you cannot explain, and the thought that comes carrying steadiness instead of pressure. You have heard me more often than you know. Become so familiar with my voice that an imitation cannot easily deceive you, just as sheep know the shepherd and refuse a stranger. The first mark is this: my guidance carries peace, though that does not always mean comfort or ease. Sometimes I ask difficult things, but even my difficult words rest on steady ground. When peace remains, move forward. When peace leaves, stop where you are. Peace is more than something you feel. It is also one of the ways I signal you. In the moment we have been speaking about, there was stillness. Then came the inner churning, yet you continued anyway. Do not treat that unrest as something to push through. Let it stand like a watchman at the wall, warning you when the gate needs to close. Here is the second mark. My voice leads. It does not force. The pressure that says, do it now, before you think, before you pray, is almost never my way, because I made time and I am never late within it. What truly comes from me can endure a pause. What depends on haste fears what clarity may reveal. So make room for stillness before the decision, the response, and the next step. Sometimes one honest breath is enough for the fog to begin clearing. The stumble we have been addressing happened where that pause should have been. From now on, protect that space as something precious. Become still and ask me. Now hear me about your attention, because attention is one of the gates through which your life is shaped. What you continually look toward slowly forms you. What you feed grows stronger, while what you starve weakens. Some voices and influences appear harmless, yet each leaves something behind. Certain things you have allowed near you have been pulling you off course little by little. I am not telling you to fear the world. I am telling you to guard the gate. Ask whatever seeks your attention. Does this draw me nearer to my Father or carry me farther away? You will often know the answer sooner than you expect. Discernment was never what you lacked. The harder part was acting on what you already knew. Some things will need to be left behind, and I will show you which ones. Do not grieve every removal as loss, because some of it is pruning. A vine dresser cuts branches because he expects more fruit, not because the vine is finished. What is being cut back is being prepared. Guard also the words you speak within yourself. Your inner voice has sometimes been harsher than any enemy, and harsher than I have ever been with you. It calls you a failure where I call you my child, and it keeps replaying what I have already put away. When that voice rises, answer it with what I say. Let your mind be renewed until your thoughts agree with what is true. Transformation is not effort piled upon effort. It is a mind gradually learning to agree with heaven. As your thinking aligns with my truth, your choices begin to follow. Restore the spring, and the water flowing from it becomes clean. And understand discipline differently. Discipline is not merely restriction, it is consistency. Choosing what is right on ordinary gray days as faithfully as you do on bright ones. Steadiness is built through one faithful moment followed by another. No one simply drifts into it. I am building that steadiness within you now. You may not feel strong at first, but strength like this grows quietly, like an oak that never announces its growth. In time, what grew without spectacle becomes difficult to move. If you are willing to receive this correction and learn from it, whisper, "Father, teach me. I am yours." Now I need to speak about the years, because those years have become a quiet wound between us. There are questions you stopped asking aloud and buried beneath careful prayers, but I heard them anyway. Why has this taken so long? Why them instead of me? You watched people who seemed to begin after you move ahead, while you remained where you were. You stood at their celebrations and applauded, while something ached behind your smile, then went home and wondered what was wrong with you. You blessed them while carrying questions you were almost ashamed to admit. I was there for every one of those evenings. There were harder nights when you wondered whether you had misunderstood me years ago. You held that old promise in your mind like a coin you could no longer spend. You never had to say the question perfectly for me to hear it. So let me answer what you buried. The delay was never my absence, and it was never rejection. You interpreted my silence as distance, but my silence was more like a craftsman bent closely over his work, quiet because his attention remained on what he was shaping. There was never a day in those years when I was somewhere else. What felt empty to you was not empty at all. Think of a field resting through winter. To someone passing by, nothing seems to be happening. Yet beneath the stillness, the soil is recovering what was depleted. When sowing comes, rested ground can produce what exhausted soil could not. Your hidden years carried unseen work. Think also of a great house being built. The work must often go downward before anything beautiful can rise, setting stones beneath the ground where future visitors will never see them. A passerby sees a hole and calls it failure. The builder sees a foundation. What must carry greater weight requires deeper unseen work. Now look again at those doors you knocked on until your hands seemed to ache, the ones you mourned as losses for years. You saw only the door that refused to open, and imagined everything waiting beyond it. But I was standing on the other side, and I saw what you could not see. If certain doors had opened when you wanted them to, you would have entered seasons that cost you more than the waiting ever did. I did not forget to open them. I chose to keep them closed. Some refusals carry a love you can only recognize farther down the road. What felt like denial was sometimes protection you could not yet understand. Release the people who seem to pass you. Their road is not yours, and their harvest was never meant to measure your own. The vine does not resent the wheat for being gathered first. Each reaches harvest at its appointed time. A later harvest is not a lesser one. Let that quiet your heart about every name whose progress has ever hurt. Those hidden years built compassion that ease could never have formed, because you now notice people others overlook. They also built endurance that does not collapse beneath the first hard wind, and they taught you to trust me while your hands were still empty. These are not consolation prizes, they are tools for the assignment ahead. And the long road revealed something else. You stayed, tired, questioning, sometimes barely holding on. You kept bringing your disappointment into my presence instead of carrying it away from me. Heaven does not overlook faithfulness like that. Now I will tell you what this hour has been moving toward. The season you have known is closing, not slowly stretching into more years of the same. The field has rested long enough, and the foundation is ready to bear what it was built to carry. What I began before you knew how to ask for it is reaching its appointed hour. That is why the correction could not wait. A traveler may drift on a straight road for a while, but drifting becomes dangerous at the turn. You are standing at that turn, my child. The honesty, the pause, the guarded gait, and the discipline were preparing you for what stands ahead. I know waiting has taught your heart to flinch when hope rises. You have hoped before, only to brace yourself again when nothing seemed to change. So I am not asking you to manufacture excitement. I am asking you to trust my word even when what you see has not caught up with it. Trust my voice. As a sailor trusts a distant star he cannot touch. The blessing prepared for you will come in 3 streams, and when they begin reaching your life, you will recognize my hand. You will not need to call it luck. You will know what you are seeing. The first stream is sudden favor. Doors you never knocked on will begin to open, and an ordinary conversation may become the connection your path needed. People who once overlooked you may suddenly find you coming to mind without knowing why. But you will understand. I go ahead of my children. What years of striving could not force open can move in one appointed moment. When that door appears, do not remain frozen at the threshold. Recognize my hand, thank me, and walk through. The second stream is restoration. Things taken from you will return differently, as seed returns from the ground as harvest, and even dreams you buried will begin stirring again. There is a vision you once carried, that circumstances pushed into the ground, something you grieved before learning to live without it. In my hands, what looked buried can become what was planted. That vision is rising in a wiser form, shaped for who you have become. But understand the boundary of this promise. I restore what I ordain, not everything that disappeared. What I removed for your protection will remain behind you. Restoration does not mean returning to everything you once lost. The third stream is deep peace. I know the pressure across your chest that became so familiar you called it normal, the knot beneath your ribs, and the thoughts circling your bed at night. I say to all of it, this is not your inheritance. A morning is coming when the dread that usually meets you will simply be absent. The accusing voice telling you that you are too late, too flawed, or too far behind has reached the end of its authority. A truer voice will become clearer. You are mine, you are called, and no one walking in step with me is behind. And hear me about the timing. Watch for the first evidence before this present season turns. Do not expect the whole harvest at once. Look for the first fruit, the early sign, the unmistakable touch of my hand showing you that the weather over your life has changed. When you recognize it, remember this hour. Remember that I spoke of it before you saw it. And when the streams begin flowing, remember why a well holds water. This blessing was never meant to end with you. It is meant to pass through you toward people still living through winters of their own. You know their names, the people you carry before me in prayer. You are not their savior. You are a signpost they can see. Some messages are spoken, but the strongest ones are lived. Yet receive this caution tenderly. When favor comes quickly, an old pattern may tell you that you no longer need the pause, the stillness, or the daily return to me. Full hands can drift more easily than empty ones. Keep the same nearness in harvest that you learned in famine. The streams were never the ultimate goal. The fountain was always the goal. If you ever have to choose between what fills your hands and what fills your soul, choose me. Nothing worth keeping should require you to lose your nearness to me. Remember that when your hands begin to fill. Now hear the truth beneath everything I have spoken today. You are chosen, not simply another face in a crowd, but known by name for work fitted to the life you have been given. Being chosen is not decoration, it is an assignment. Remember whom I have chosen before, a fugitive who struggled with speech before a king, a shepherd boy overlooked in his father's house, and a fisherman whose courage failed in a courtyard. I do not require polished people before I can use them. I choose willing hearts, and the polishing often happens through correction. The fire in my voice today was not rejection. It was the fire of a refiner staying close to silver he intends to use. Tests will come again. The old thought may return wearing different clothes, and when it does, remember what you learned. Stop, breathe, turn toward me, and wait for steadiness. If peace remains, move. If peace leaves, stand still, even when others do not understand. And if you stumble, do not disappear from me as you once did. Come immediately, even while you are falling if you can, because the door between us is never locked from my side. Rise now, my precious child, lift your head, and return to your life as someone who has been sent. Walk forward, remembering whose presence goes with you. I am ahead of you to lead, behind you to guard, and within you to make you able. You will not walk through what is coming alone, because I have spoken, and my word does not return to me empty. If you are ready to rise and walk with me into everything I have prepared for you, declare your Amen now. Let that Amen be the answer of a heart ready to walk with me. This message continues through viewers who freely choose to support this work. If you would like to help, please use the QR code or the support link in the description. Thank you for your support. God bless you.